Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I am Mary, and I'm joined today by Amy and Patty, and we have Enes Freedom in the house. Welcome to the show, Enes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So for those of you that don't know, Enes is an NBA basketball player, but he has been fighting against the humanitarian atrocities going on over in China. But he has such a lengthy story. We're going to go through the whole story, basically how you got to America and some of the family issues that we had and some of the contract issues and then the issues with the NBA. So stick around. You're not going to want to miss this entire show. So once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we should maybe just kind of start out by why are you in Bismarck, North Dakota right now?
This actually, not many people knows, but this is my second time coming here. A couple years ago, I came here for a basketball camp. My manager set it up because I always wanted to see North Dakota. And he set up this basketball camp. I was literally here for a half a day. And when I left, I was really sad. I even told my manager, I'm like, we couldn't even get to see what North Dakota is all about, you know? But we did a basketball camp. It was amazing. People were really nice, really welcoming, and really warm people. And I left. And so I always wanted to, you know, come back here and just to go see around. I didn't know it was going to be this cold, by the way.
Well, see, we did that, did we? We didn't want you because we want to fit all four seasons into 1 week is what we do in North Dakota.
But, you know, then I was, you know, just visiting DC, and then I, you know, met with the senator and he invited me here. I'm like, of course, I would love to come. And we set up this 3-day trip to North Dakota, and I'm here now.
Great. And so tomorrow night, Tuesday night, you're going to be at the Belle Mayhews.
Yes.
And we do have a flyer for that, if we can pull that up. So you're going to talk about freedom isn't free. And so tickets are still available. They're $12. You can buy them in advance at the Bismarck Event Center or log on to betruthful.org. Yeah. They're actually the organization that brought you in. Yes. And so it's a beautiful what they're doing. They're bringing in all kinds of freedom-loving speakers. About once a month now it's getting to be.
Interesting.
The last one was Carol Swain, and she did a fantastic job as well. And it was about racism and critical race theory and that type of stuff. And she's a black woman that talks against critical race theory. So it was very interesting. So why don't we just kind of start at the beginning? You grew up in
Turkey.
Turkey.
So I'm born in Switzerland because my dad was doing his master in Switzerland. And then I moved to Turkey when I was 9 months. I always tell my parents, I wish you guys stay longer so I could learn the language. But you know, I moved to Turkey when I was 9 months, and then I grew up there since, you know, the last, 16 to 17 years I stayed there.
And then your next step was you wanted to come to America to play basketball?
Well, the reason I wanted to come to America because, my family was all about education, you know, and I told my dad I wanted to, you know, play a sport. I wanted to play basketball. And he made me promise that, you know, he told me, I want you to be a good student before being a good basketball player. You know, you're only going to play this game maybe till 34, 35 years old. Then you're going to have to retire. And he wanted me to have a job after I retired, you know, from basketball. So he made me a promise, and that's why the biggest reason that I came to America was because of education. Because in Turkey, it's so hard to go to school and play basketball at the same time. I came here, went to prep school, went to college, and now I'm an MBA.
So at the age of 19 is when you were drafted into the NBA. You were kind of a top pick from what I understand. Yep. Tell us what that was like as a 19-year-old coming over here and having that dream realized early.
That was my dream from like the day I picked up basketball. You know, it was, I remember when the commissioner said my name, you know, from Turkey and University of Kentucky, number 3rd pick, Enes Kanter. I just, you know, there was some moments that you feel numb. You just don't feel anything because of excitement, you know. I walked to the stage, shake his hand, and I was like, wow, you know, I'm an NBA player now. I was super excited, and I was going to a city like Utah, and where there was already a Turkish player played there before. I was super excited for it too.
But you had a little bit of trouble at first to play basketball because you already had a Nike contract. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I was 16 in Turkey, I was not really allowed to sign any deals, right? Because before 18, you cannot really sign anything. So my dad signed a deal, a shoe deal, without asking me. Because I mean, he thought that his son, I mean, I don't blame him, because he wanted his son to have like a really good future, you know. And obviously back then he didn't know anything about the slave labor camps or sweatshops and everything. So he signed the deal, and I came to America, and unfortunately that deal came out, and I couldn't play high school basketball nor college basketball. And I even told the NCAA the reason I came to America is to go to school. In Turkey they offered me $1 million of contracts, but I was like, my dad and my family told me education comes first. So I left it, and I came here to go to college and play basketball at the same time. And unfortunately, they said no. That really broke my heart. But my dad still feels, guilty about me not playing. Me couldn't play in, high school and college. So it really hurt him. And it really hurt me too, because that was my dream to, become a college player.
That must have been pretty hard for you, sitting out
Yes.
and watching other people. But yet you made some pretty impressive records as a rookie, right? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my first game was against Los Angeles Lakers at Staples Center against Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
I was
No
like,
No pressure, no pressure,
I was
right?
like, and I grew up watching Kobe and Lakers. And because of the time difference, my mom never let me wake up that early because I had schools. But the next day, the next morning, that was the only team I was watching, the Lakers, And I grew up as a Lakers fan. I hope Celtics fan won't be mad at me because of this. But no, my first game, coach called my name, and then I walked in. I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to play against Kobe Bryant, Anyway, I'm in a game. I got an offensive rebound. They foul me. I'm in a free throw line. There are 20,000 people in Staples Center are booing me, right? Because I'm about to take a free throw. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I took my first free throw and I missed it.
Oh,
I was
boy.
so nervous. Like, I promise you, my hands were shaking. And then I made my second free throw, and I was like, I better get used to this left, because this is going to be my left from now on. So, and then, no, my rookie season was amazing. Well, that was the year that was a lockout year. So we couldn't get to play like the first 20 to 30 games. We started late, really December, but I mean, we made it playoffs, and we had an amazing time to just with my teammates. I learned a lot from my coaches and teammates, so it was an amazing time.
We talked a little bit about your family and about you at age 16 moving over here. Do you have other brothers and sisters that are in America or overseas, or where is your family right now?
So most of my family is in Turkey. My mom, my dad, and my sister, and one of my brother is in Poland playing basketball, actually. Another of my brother is in America. He's going to school in America.
Okay, so there's 4 siblings.
Yep.
Right? And so are they all 6'10"?
They wish. No, they're shorter than me. I'm the tallest one. My brother, who plays basketball, around 6'9", and he thinks he is 6'10", but he's 6'9", really.
Right?
My other brother is 6'5", and my sister is actually 5'11".
Oh, and
Yeah.
does she play any sports, volleyball or basketball?
She's a doctor. She went to a medical school. She's trying to be a doctor.
Nice,
Yeah, she went to medical
beautiful,
school.
beautiful. So growing up in Turkey is quite different than living in America. What were the major differences?
Freedom. That's like the first thing I will say. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of press. Now, unfortunately, democracy and human rights. I wish I could take some of the people that who criticize America to Turkey and show them around, and show them one more time that how blessed they are and how lucky they are to be in a situation like America. Unfortunately, there are lots of differences. Obviously, if you look at it the other way, there are obviously the culture, the religion, and the food especially. I don't know if you guys have ever, the first time I landed in North Dakota, the first thing I looked was if there's any Turkish restaurant around here. But
I
there was
bet
none.
you didn't find one.
There was none, no. The food is obviously amazing, but those are some of the differences, yeah.
Great. And so why don't we pick up then? You had made a couple statements about the Turkish president. Let's just kind of jump into that.
You know, so I got drafted in the age of 19, and the first couple years in the league, all I cared about was playing basketball and hang out with my teammates and stuff. And I remember my third year in the league, now it was 2013, there was a big corruption scandal happened in Turkey. President Erdogan and his family was involved in it. And he was going around and started to put innocent people in jail, police, prosecutors, judges and stuff. And that was actually the first time I said something. As a basketball player, I wasn't really educated about it, so I put a tweet out there, very simple tweet. Because of the NBA platform, it became a conversation here in the United States and over there in Turkey. And I was like, even one simple tweet can affect this much from now, and I'm going to start to pay attention about what's going on in my country more and more. I started to study about the relationships between America and Turkey, Middle East and Turkish, politics and history. And the more I speak, the more big platforms, newspapers started to give me a platform, and then I went out there and started to talk about all this stuff now.
Now, I've watched a few interviews that you were in, and one thing that I think kind of stuck out in my mind was that you had said a fellow player had criticized our president, and you were very scared for him for a while, and he laughed at you and said, no, it's fine. And so that's how, things are dealt with in America. But in terms of the differences, when you started making those tweets or you started with that platform, how did that affect your family back in Turkey?
Yeah, it affected me and my family. My dad was a genetic professor. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. She still cannot find a job. I think the saddest one is my little brother. He was playing basketball, and he literally got kicked out in every team because of the last name. They were getting affected so much they had to put a statement out there and saying we are disowning Enes. So Turkish government will leave him alone. But they didn't believe my family. They sent police to my house in Turkey, and they raided the whole house, and they took every electronics away, phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not, which they couldn't find any evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. But we put so much pressure from here to Turkey, they had to let him go. But then, they revoked my passport. They actually tried to kidnap me in Indonesia, and they put my name on the Interpol list. The last 2 weeks ago was the first time that I actually left, United States after 5 years because, my name was on Interpol list, and, I couldn't really live United States. These are just some of the, the struggles that I had just because I criticized, the Turkish government.
Wow. So the government was harassing you, whether they wanted to admit it or not. Did you hear any feedback from regular citizens, or were they too afraid to support you?
They were afraid, but I get thousands of messages on, my DMs and social media that they were saying, listen, I think what you're doing is so courageous. Keep doing what you're doing, but we just cannot support you out loud because we live in Turkey or we have family members in Turkey, and if you say something, then they will be in jail. It is crazy. My manager's wife's dad liked one of my posts on Facebook, not even Twitter, or Facebook, right? He was in jail for 13 days.
Your manager's wife's dad. Wow.
Actually, it's so hard to believe. We can't even invite him here maybe one day and he can talk about it. He literally just liked one of my posts, and he was in jail for 13 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
That's how crazy it is.
So then, why do it? You're 19. You've played for a couple years, so now you're 21. You're living the great life that most people would dream about, and then why continue? Why not just sit back and be quiet? You see, it's causing trouble.
Right. Well, that's the number one question that I get all the time from my teammates, my friends, from everyone I interview. Is like, are you crazy? Because your family is still there. You're an NBA player. Just keep your mouth shut. Make your millions. But people don't understand. My family is only one. There are so many families out there. There are so many political prisoners and journalists in the jail right now waiting for help. I feel like this platform is given me by God, and I need to use it to be the voice of all those innocent people out there who don't have a voice. So, if you look at the numbers, Turkey is like the number one country in the world that put most journalists in jail, you know. And there have been so many media outlets are shut down, education centers and, you know, dormitories, universities, or hospitals, just because of the people who work there is against, I don't want to say against, but talk against the Turkish government. So, and I mean, whenever I say, because of the platform, it became a conversation everywhere in the world. So I'm like, it is important for me to use it.
And so your first tweet, you were actually comparing the Turkish president
Mm-hmm.
to Hitler, like he is the Hitler of the century. Wow, and that's pretty powerful.
I mean, I don't want to obviously compare what happened, you know, back in Holocaust days to right now. You know, obviously it's definitely not comparable. But it is, if you see, Turkey's playing a very important role in our century, because Turkey could have been a bridge of Islam and West. But just because of all this stuff happening right now, it's impossible, you know? And there's been so many, you know, terrorist attacks because of the regime. The economy is going down. People are not happy. And I mean, it is important to amplify all these abuses. And because, I mean, Turkey played a very important role in Middle East, especially, you know? So whenever I sit down and I have a conversation with somebody from in DC, or so one of my politician friends, and they always say the same thing. You know, Turkey was an American ally, but you know, they don't act like one anymore. You know, they don't act like a NATO ally, or they're becoming more Russia ally than American ally now.
Let's talk a little bit about when you did change your last name.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose Fethullah Gulen? And I bet I butchered that.
Let me just tell them about who he is first and what his, you know, his movement does. You know, so in Turkey, you know, this Gulen movement, I will say, has the best schools in Turkey. Even the crazy thing is, actually, even President Erdogan's kid went to prep school of, you know, this Gulen movement, which is right now they're like two worst enemies. But you know, my family sent me these schools because they were given the best education. So I grew up in these schools. I grew up in this movement. And when I come to America, was like the first time I met him, you know. And when I met him, I asked him about like how can I do to, you know, use my platform to bring good and peace into this world, you know. He told me one thing and really like inspired me. He said, it doesn't matter what your religion is, your culture, your skin color, or your background. The most important thing in life is leave your differences on the table and try to find what we have in common. Till, I don't know, somebody, one of those billionaires or somebody find another planet to live, this world is what we have, so we need to make this world better together. You know, that really inspired me. And, you know, a lot of groups in Turkey goes around and build, you know, mosques and stuff, but this movement was going around and building, you know, schools and dormitories and universities, because you know, Mr. Gulen believes that we have lots of problems are happening in our century because of uneducated people. Well, the reason is because the conflict going on between the, you know, Turkish president and this movement and myself is this movement was the strongest group in Turkey. They had the strongest, you know, biggest newspapers, biggest channels, biggest media outlets, schools, everything, right? When the corruption scandal happened, every group was scared to say anything but Gulen movement, you know, because of the newspapers, because of how powerful the, you know, the channels are. They were talking about all the stuff going on in Turkey, and obviously that really pissed President Erdogan. So he started to go around and shutting down every schools, every media outlets, every newspaper, started to pull innocent people in jail, and started to put, you know, journalists in jail. There is actually a website called turkeypurge.com. If you guys go onto that website, you can find all the numbers. There's been so many people lost their job and so many innocent people. I believe there are 17,000, last time I checked, innocent women are in the jail right now. You know, just because of they don't think the same way what Erdogan thinks. And it's all internet. You guys go ahead and look at it. And there are so many reports out there like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Foundation, saying that these people are in the jail, are getting tortured and raped. So we need to help those people, you know. So and that's how I met, you know, Mr. Gulen. And in 2016, there was a coup attempt happened in Turkey. And that day, I was with Mr. Gulen, you know. And I remember I was sitting in a room with him, and one of his, you know, student brought him the news with an iPad, and he scrolled it down. He was very shocked. And right after, the coup attempt, President Erdogan came out and blamed the Gülen movement for the coup attempt. And I was like, that night, I saw what Mr. Gülen did with my own eyes. He was just sitting on his chair and praying for his country. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever I can to just tell the whole world that Mr. Gülen or his movement has nothing to do with this coup attempt, right? And obviously, after I did that, the Turkish government got really mad and did everything that, they have done to me.
Wow.
So now you have transferred this courage that you have to speak out in basketball against China. And once again, you're paying some prices for that, right?
Last 10 years, I was obviously focusing on Turkey because of my plate was so full. My family was there. I was trying to help my people, right? And past summer, I was literally doing a basketball camp. And after the basketball camp, I was taking pictures with the little kids. And I took a picture with this one kid. And while I was taking a picture, his parents called me out in front of everybody and said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day in concentration camps in China? Media was there, kids was there, parents, everybody was there. And I was shocked. I turned around to that parent. I was like, I promise I'm going to get back to you. That day, I canceled everything. I went to my hotel and I started to study about what people going through over there. I was studying Uyghurs. There's a link popped out and I clicked on it. It was about Tibet. So I learned about Tibet. I already knew about Hong Kong because 2 years ago when the general manager tweeted about Hong Kong, it became a huge conversation in NBA. And then I already knew about Taiwan because, the China has been abusing Taiwan the last whatever years. So I was like, if you're carrying a heart, there's no way you cannot stay silent about this, atrocities. And also I asked because on the internet you can find all kind of, news, fake news, real news. I asked my manager to find me a concentration camp survivor. And a concentration camp survivor.
Okay, concentration camp survivor.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was very shocked. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I want to talk to one so I can learn from firsthand what's going on. And I set up this Zoom call with her. And the things that she told me, we are on TV right now. I don't want to say all the details, but she was telling me about all the gang rape, the torture, how forced abortion, sterilization. And I was like, if you're carrying a heart, I don't care how much money involved, you cannot stay silent about this abuses.
Can I just say in a nutshell, because I'm betting some of our viewers might not even realize what is going on. So maybe in a couple sentences, can you explain what is happening there?
Well, I'll tell you guys about the Uyghurs real quick. They're like a Turkic Muslim people lives in the area called Xinjiang. And just because of their religion, right, China put them pretty much in concentration camps. And numbers are, people say 2 million, but I talked to someone, they said it's definitely over the 3 million. And there are so many people, American government said that it is a genocide, period. So there's a genocide happening. There's so many people are getting killed. There's organ harvesting because this is very interesting because some of the Muslim countries out there wants halal organs because obviously where I'm from, I don't eat pork, I don't drink alcohol. And so some of the Muslim countries out there in the world wants halal organs. So what China does is they take their Uyghurs organs and send it to these Muslim countries because they both Muslims,
Wow.
So that I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. And this is just only a couple examples. When I sit down and, it's all over YouTube. When I sit down and had a conversation with some of them, they were telling me about the gang rape. They were telling me about how 7 Chinese police raped an innocent woman just because she was Muslim. And I had a conversation with Dalai Lama. He was telling me about their struggle in Tibet. And I had so many conversations. I had a conversation with some of the people in Taiwan. I'm actually thinking about going to Taiwan and visit Taiwan this summer. And they told me about their, struggles, and also Hong Kong, it is important. I think the worst human rights abuses are happening right now in China, and we cannot stay silent.
Wow. And we can talk about this in our next segment, but there's some Chinese things going on right here in the United States where they're trying to buy up land and different things that we're trying to put a stop to, or some of us are trying to put a stop to. Well, that's just so interesting, because when we think about what the media does over here, they say bad things about Muslims and want us to be in fear. And it's like, and clearly that's not the case. And so we'll talk about that in the next segment as well. But I just, so then you did take his name to get back to the top of the topic. You took his name. So
I never took his name.
You didn't?
It was just pretty much like, well, I mean, everything I say was bothering Turkish government. So I pretty much like wanted to troll them. And they bite it, you know, they bite it. So I never really took his name, but it was like, you know, pretty much like trolling the Turkish government, and they took it.
So you became a U.S. citizen. What name did you take, and why?
So the story actually, so first time I came to America was back in 2009. One of my teammates criticized the president here. And I was like I turned around to him, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, what? He's like, I saw your post. You were criticizing the president. And he's like, okay. And I was like, you're going to be in jail tomorrow. And he started to laugh really hard. And he's like, listen, this is not Turkey. This is America. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he tried to explain to me about what freedom of speech, religion, expression, and media. He said, just because of you criticize someone, you won't be going to jail tomorrow, or you won't be tortured. And I had no idea what he was saying, because I did not grow up having this, you know? And then obviously years goes by, I started to study about what those means are, you know, how important the freedom is for a human being. And the reason I wanted to take that, you know, last name and make it part of me and put that behind my jersey, because I wanted to educate our young generation. I want them to understand how lucky and blessed they are. You know, how there are checks and balances here, there are rules and laws. You know, people need to understand how blessed they are to be in a country like this.
We don't have a whole lot of time left. The show is just flying by. But talk a little bit about the NBA contracts over in China and what's going on and why you're trying to stop that.
You know, I started to talk about this, you know, all the sort of abuses, and I wanted to do it in a very unique way, because I remember when I was a kid, whenever I watched an NBA game, the first thing that I was, you know, watching was, what are they wearing? What kind of shoes they're wearing? If it's comfortable, what color it is, what brand it is. I wanted to do it in a way where am I going to inspire all the kids out there in the world, you know? So I come up with this idea, and I was like, why don't we just put all the abuses on my shoes? You know, it's 100% made in America, no slave labor, no sweatshops, and I'm just going to go out there and play. And obviously, I asked my manager, I was like, is there any rule that I'm not allowed to wear anything like put anything on my shoes? He said, nope, you're free to wear whatever you want. Anyway, so and then I went out there. The reason I did Tibet first, you know, because I didn't want people to think, well, I'm doing Uyghurs because of the same religion. I wanted to, you know, open my arm to every religion, every culture, you know. So I put the Tibet flag and says Free Tibet. Went out there, and the first game, right? I remember I'm warming up, and all my teammates are looking at my shoes. I'm like, these are so cool. You know, they didn't really understand what he was saying. And then we did the national anthem, and right after that, we were in a huddle with the team. There was two gentlemen from the Celtics, the team that I played for, came to me and said, we are begging you, please take your shoes off. And I was very shocked. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're getting so much attention, and we're getting so many calls, you have to take your shoes off. And I was very shocked. I'm like, it was a perfect moment, because I was getting ready for my citizenship test. And I remember, I'm like, there are 27 amendments, my First Amendment, freedom of speech. And I'm like, you cannot take my First Amendment from me. I'm not taking my shoes off. And they're like, I was like, I don't care if I get fined. They said, we're not talking about a fine, we're talking about getting banned. I was like, go tell your boss. I don't care, I'm not taking my shoes off, right? First half, I did not play a single minute. I went to my locker room, I looked at my phone, there were thousands of notifications, right? I clicked on, my manager texted me, I clicked on it, and he texted me and said, all the Celtics games are banned in China. So it took him 24 minutes
Wow.
to ban 12 minutes, first quarter, second quarter, to ban every Celtics game in television the rest of the year. And that game, I did not play a single minute. After the game, obviously there was this huge media storm, right? And they called me from the Player Association. They said, please, we are begging you, do not wear those shoes ever again. I was like, is there any rule that I'm not allowed to wear the shoes? He said, no, but they said, we've been getting so many calls from the NBA and stuff. You please don't wear those shoes again. And I was like, they were bothering us so much, and me and my manager, because it's crazy. The last 10 years, I talk about Turkey, I did not get one phone call. I talk about China one day, my phone was ringing once every hour. And I told them, I was like, I promise you, I'm not going to wear free Tibet shoes ever again. They said, okay, thank you. The next game, I wore free Uyghur shoes, right? They called me after the game, they said, you're a liar. We thought you're never gonna wear that shoes again. I was like, I told you guys I'm not gonna wear free Tibet shoes. But I was like, I never said I'm not gonna wear free Uyghur shoes, you know?
Free, what was
Free
it?
Uyghurs.
Uyghur.
Okay.
The
Uyghur.
Muslims that are in the
Yes.
concentration camps in
Okay.
China.
So, and then it became a trend, you know, I started wearing like, you know, free China, free, you know, Hong Kong, stand with Taiwan shoes. So and also I did something about Nike, made with slave labor. So it became a really conversation every time I go out there and put on the shoes, you know. It really did bother NBA, and many of my teammates were telling me, it's like, listen, man, this is your last year in the league. Have fun with it. I hope you win a championship, but you're not going to get another contract after this.
Wow, how sad is that? And
Yeah.
it's for the freedoms that you're fighting for.
Exactly.
You know, and that's why they're trying to ban you right here in the United States. But yet they allow some players to go ahead and get on the knee and not respect the flag, and that's okay. It's like they think everyone, you know, that's fine. But if you were to do that in your country, you would be in jail.
It's crazy because 2 years ago when we were in the NBA bubble, you know, NBA was all about social justice, putting all these phrases behind our jersey, putting all these logos, BLM logos on the floor and stuff. People were taking knees. I'm like, okay, you know, you guys are obviously care about social justice a lot. And 2 years later, this happened. There was not one player, one coach, or anyone from the NBA or NBA officials was stand right behind me.
And the NBA is denying this, right? But clearly they are. It's very scary to think in the United States, where there's so much freedom, that the NBA is that controlled by the Chinese government.
Unbelievable. It is sad to see. I mean, I only see one organization that stand up against, you know, Communist Party. It's the WTA, Women's Tennis Association. I feel like every organization, association should take an example of what WTA did. You know, they talk about their missing a player Peng Shuai, and they said, we don't care how much money we lose, we care about our player. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we have 3 minutes left, but we might want to hold you over if you're available.
Of course, yes.
Okay, great. Because we have so many questions to
ready.
ask. Because you were talking about the NBA, and then there's some Nike contracts and commercial contracts. Why don't you dive into that?
You know, I sit down with many. I was like, please, God, let me just like have one player behind me and say I support Enes. I reached out to people, and you know, because of the Beijing Olympics, some Olympians, some of my teammates, some of my ex-teammates, some of my, not just in the NBA world, but you know, other associations and organizations. They always say, listen, Enes, your shoes are one of the most inspirational shoes ever that got created. You know, what you're doing is so amazing, so inspirational. We love you, we support you, but we just cannot do it out loud. You know, we have family to feed, we have, you know, shoe deals, Nike deals, we have this and that deal. And I asked him one question, one simple question. I was like, if your mother, if your sister, your daughter, or your family, one of your family members was in those concentration camps getting tortured and raped every day, would you still remain silent? Would you still pick, you know, money over morals? None of them answered.
Wow.
And that is the thing that really broke my heart. You see all this phony, fake athlete, activist goes around and criticize this and that, but when it comes to China, or when they know that it's going to affect their money or business or pocket, they won't say a word.
Right. They're not willing to give up their
Nope.
contracts for
They don't.
doing the right thing. But you are.
And that is why you're our hero, not
Yes.
because you're an NBA player,
Thank
but
you.
because
Right.
you're
No.
willing to put your life and livelihood
You-
on the line. to
Yeah, you
speak the
put your
truth.
life
Yeah.
not just in what you're saying, but actually showing by example.
I mean, there are more important things than money and business, like morals, principles, values. It's important that people do. Also, it's important to because if you're an athlete, you have a platform to inspire millions of kids out there. You know, you want to have a platform also inspire people, especially kids, so when they become at our age, they won't face the same problems we are facing right now. You know.